Robert Duane Robinson. I was born in Douglas County. I was born in 1936, May the 30th, 1936. I was born in Douglas County. We lived in Arthur. I lived in Arthur till I was 7 years old when we moved down here. So I've got four sisters and two brothers. My dad was a farmer. And Mom, of course, was a stay-at-home mother, which every woman, I think, in those days was a stay-at-home mother. It was seldom ever, really unusual for a woman to work. Yeah, he mowed the cemeteries and we dug graves. He dug the graves back then, all the graves that I can remember him digging was by hand. He dug them by hand, and I used to help him, and probably when I was 6 years old, he'd put me down in those graves and I'd throw the crumbs out. We milked a lot of cows. So the farm really took up the biggest part of the farm life anyway. We had cows and we had a bunch of hogs and we probably had 200 or 300 chickens, and we sold the eggs, and the people more or less just lived off of out of the land, so to speak. It was different than it was, very much different than it is nowadays. We walked 1.25 miles. That's what we walked, 1.25 miles to school. We walked all the time. As near as I can remember, we walked all the time. I think perhaps once in a blue moon, Dad would take us to school. If it was super bitter cold, he probably took us to school. But as a general rule, you walked. I went to school at a country school until I was in the 8th grade, and that's when they started consolidating the schools, and started going to school in town, and the bus started picking us up when I was in the 8th grade. We rode the bus to school till I was a freshman in high school. I went my freshman year, and then I went part of my sophomore year. There was a little store right across the street from the little country store right across the street from the school. So we went over there at noon hour and smoked, and my dad found out about it. And so then he said, well, if you're gonna, and I was making poor grades anyway, and he said, if you're not gonna go to school and learn, then you can stay at home and start working. And that was the end of my schooling when I was in the second year of high school.